Last week, we discussed the Venator-Class Star Destroyer and some of its merits, some of the reasons why it was perfect for the Republic. So I figured today we could take a closer look at two very specific Venator-Class vessels and maybe dive a little bit into their history and the battles they were in. Today we're going to discuss the Negotiator and the Resolute. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoy this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So, both of these vessels played crucial roles in the events of the Clone Wars, mostly due to the Jedi in command of them. The Resolute spent most of its service under the direct command of Jedi General Anakin Skywalker, while the Negotiator spent much of its time under the command of Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. And under the command of these Jedi generals, they played crucial roles in many battles throughout the duration of the war. So I figured today we could take a little bit of a look at the history of these ships. Let's start with the Resolute, the one that was under the command of Jedi General Anakin Skywalker. Now, the Resolute is interesting because it's one of the few Venators that we can actually distinguish visually every time it's on screen. Unlike every other Venator, where the bridge is painted the same color as the rest of the hull, the bridge on the Resolute is actually painted red, to match the red markings on the rest of the Venator. So with that out of the way, let's talk about where we see this in combat. Let's talk a little bit about its history with the Republic Navy. The first place we see it on screen chronologically is the Battle of Christophsis. During that battle, it was one of the Venators in the fleet used to attempt to break Admiral Trench's blockade. It was actually serving in this battle along with the Negotiator, which we'll talk about a little later. While the Resolute was originally part of an initial attempt to break the Separatist blockade basically with brute force, it ultimately was unsuccessful and forced to retreat behind Christophsis' moon. From there, they carried out an assault using a stealth ship to ultimately end up disabling and destroying Admiral Trench's flagship, a Providence-class dreadnought known as the Invincible. With the destruction of the Invincible and the Separatist blockade in chaos, the Resolute, along with the Negotiator, were able to lead a second attack which ultimately broke the Separatist blockade. The next major engagement we see the Resolute in is the hunt for the Malevolence. As many of us know, the Malevolence is a subjugator-class heavy cruiser utilized by the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the early days of the war, one of only a few ships of this class. The Resolute played a key role in the hunt for the Malevolence as it rampaged around Republic fleets during the early days in the war. It was from the decks of the Resolute that the Y-Wings that would ultimately destroy the ion cannon were launched from, and the Resolute would ultimately end up engaging the Malevolence directly once the ion cannon had been disabled, when the vessel was basically careening out of control. The next major engagement that we see the Resolute in is the Battle of Ryloth, the first attempt to break the blockade of Ryloth, where the Resolute's bridge is significantly damaged by Separatist strike craft. This initial assault failed, much like the first assault during the Battle of Christophsis, and Republic forces were forced to retreat. The Resolute would ultimately end up being a staging ground for a second attack carried out from another vessel. The Resolute would once again play a role during the Battle of Quell, where it would be sent to aid Aayla Secura's wounded vessel. We know that the Resolute was part of the strike fleet utilized during the Second Battle of Geonosis, when the Republic had to retake the world from Poggle the Lesser, who had regained control of the planet. And the last major significant battle that we see the Resolute fight in and survive is the Battle of Camino, where it was part of the Republic fleet guarding the world against a Separatist attack force. Ultimately, it would survive that battle as well, but wouldn't survive its next engagement. We know during the Battle of Sullust, the Resolute was significantly damaged by Separatist assassin Asajj Ventress, and ultimately destroyed as a result of that. Now let's discuss Obi-Wan's ship, the Negotiator. Like the Resolute, the Negotiator was first seen at the Battle of Christophsis, where as part of the fleet assembled to break Admiral Trench's blockade. While they failed their initial assault, a second assault, carried out after a stealth ship had destroyed the Invincible, Trench's flagship, was able to break the blockade. It would appear alongside the Resolute once again during the hunt for the Malevolence. Once the ion cannon on the Malevolence had been destroyed by bombers from the Resolute, the Negotiator joined the Resolute in engaging the Malevolence directly, mostly from its blind spot at its stern, and they were ultimately one of the vessels responsible for the heavy cruiser's destruction. The next place we see the Negotiator is during the Battle of Felucia, where it is one of the ships sent to escort Plo Koon's wolf pack to the surface. We only see it on screen very briefly during this battle. The Negotiator would ultimately be destroyed when it was boarded by the droids of Grievous's forces during the later years of the war. So there you have it, two very significant vessels within the Venator class. They're just two of many, by the way. There are a wide array of named Venator-Class Star Destroyers that all have very interesting stories. And they are all very good examples of how effective the Venator was at fighting the Republic's war. And if you'd like to learn about some of the reasons why the Venator was so perfect for the Republic during the Clone Wars, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I want you to let me know down in the comments what you think of Jedi commanding very specific vessels. Do you think a Jedi general should really have an assigned command Venator, or do you think they should be flexible, working from a variety of different Venator-class vessels, instead of just one that becomes sort of their flagship? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars, leave it down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.